how can you not be romantic about football? Seriously. The Rams beat their bitter rivals on Thursday Night Football, closing out the final minutes in one of the most poetic of ways imaginable. For the past few seasons, the 49ers brand of football has been bully ball, tough running, run the ball down the defense's throat, break their will, force them into submission. The Super Bowl window they've been going on, it comes to a poetic end because with the Brock Purdy interception late in the game with about 5.5 minutes left, your division rival goes on a 13-play, 69-yard drive, burns essentially all but 20 seconds off the clock. Niners got to go down and score a touchdown to save the game. Doesn't happen. Rams win. But that last drive, I want to talk about the mentality of that team today. We're going to talk about the 49ers being a complete just downhill, rolling dumpster fire down a burning hill since that game. And yeah, let's look at some playoff scenarios. I am your host, Tuna. You have found the First and Tuna podcast talking all things Rams. And yeah, let's hear that theme music. Oh, it's good to be back. What a week. What a week I chose to return. If you know me personally, you know how much I hate the Niners. That's what has stemmed my fandom of the Rams, was essentially just hating the 49ers. And they beat them. They swept them. They're actually on a 3-game win streak against the 49ers.
Revenge!
I love it. But no, getting the house stuff out of the way. If you guys are returning here, been gone for a few weeks, real life stuff gets in the way. Mental health is important. Make sure you guys take care of yourselves before you try to take care of other people. But we're back for the close of the season. I'm super excited about this. Let's talk about that game. I'm sure if you're like me, you've watched all the highlights up and down the field, especially that last drive, especially that Kevin Dotson, multiple blocks on the screen pass, just bullying DBs and linebackers. Hufanga got a little bit of that action too. It was great to see. But seriously, that last drive, as I'm watching it, you're sitting there hoping, 5 minutes is a lot of time to burn. It takes a special type of team to be able to just 4-minute offense, drain the clock. It's kind of what you do to your little brother when you're playing Madden. Oh man, I've got the lead. I'm just going to run the ball a bunch and play keep away. You're not going to get this ball back. Watching Kyron run after Kyron run, a play action pass to Parkinson, the long, and then just a clutch third down pass to force them to burn their last 2 timeouts before Cardi went out there for the final 3 points of the game. Man, it was beautiful. It's something that we're so used to seeing the 49ers do to people. Talk about it being a poetic game of football. I'm not being dramatic. The fact that their Super Bowl window and their playoff hopes for this season comes to a close by your division rival, the same old sorry-ass Rams, beat you in a fashion that you're used to doing to other people. Even when a game is messy and sloppy and nothing really seems to go right, at least you're going to punch someone in the mouth. You're going to run the ball down their throats. And on the back of Kyron Williams, 30 carries, it's exactly what the Rams did. Since then, it has not been great for the Niners. Let me talk about them, get it out of the way for a second. The Schadenfreude, the joy of feeling others' pains or witnessing their downfall is thick for us Rams fans. If you're not aware, if you haven't heard the news really, Devondre Campbell, linebacker that was brought in on a 1-year deal for the 49ers from Green Bay, he just refused to come back in. He almost pulled Avonte Davis, where the situation is he got brought in because Dre Greenlaw was going to be out for, at least half of the season. He tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl. One of the most just heartbreaking injuries you've ever seen. But that guy's one of the heartbeats of the defense. You're brought in as Devondre Campbell. You know what your role is. You may have been an All-Pro before, but you're just not that same caliber. You're here as a backup, as a fill-in. You're supposed to be a very good fill-in. Bosa comes out talking about he heard rumblings before the game that Campbell is just not happy that now he's got to sit the bench because Greenlaw is set to debut this game. It's all hands on deck for the 49ers. Hey, if you lose this game, your season's done. You're already looking at mock drafts. Devondre Campbell did not like that. Greenlaw played out of his mind that first half. I think he had 9 tackles. He just seemed to be everywhere, stopping a bunch of runs on the Rams. He seemed to tweak something. He couldn't come back in after halftime. So, hey, Campbell, hey, get back out there. He said no.
I'm not leaving.
He just flat out said, I'm not fucking going.
I'm not fucking leaving.
He went sent packing. He's now being suspended for the rest of the season. He will not collect any checks. Yeah, just a complete disaster. And then now, as of this morning, recirculating rumors, Shanahan, hey, trade him to Chicago. Niners get to start over. Bears get a coach that they need with all the talent that they have. I'm just saying, hey, if you want to go that route, if that's even an idea for Niners ownership, I implore you to look at 2001, 2002, and how that turned out for the Raiders, trading their head coach away. I'm just saying, as a Rams fan, I'd love to see it, but as just a football nerd, don't be fucking stupid. Like, why would you? It's like us trading McVay after the 2022 season. It's just the dumbest thing imaginable. But anyways, back to the Rams. There is something to be said. Like, I don't care which way you cut it. I don't care if you score 44 or you score 4 field goals. It's hard to win games in the NFL. The way this team started the season, the way this week went, the night and day contrast between the offensive line, the way the defense plays, the one thing that's been constant is the level of attitude from the team. McVay's leadership, there's a reason why he's looked at as one of the top coaches in the league. And it's not always just about wins and losses. Yes, that's a deciding factor, but it's not just about, oh, boy genius can draw up pretty plays. No, man, can you get your boys ready to lock in every Sunday, every Thursday, whatever it is, and just play and be professional about it? You host the Bills, who are a wagon, who can just, like, look what they did to Detroit this week. Detroit's a Super Bowl front runner. Like, you score 44 on them and beat them, and then you turn around on a short week, go to your division rival who seems to always have your number. Like, I don't care if one team's 0-10 and 10-0. These games in the NFC West are always going to be weird. It's the way division games work. To get the boys ready to play and to win both, like I said, the one constant has been the mentality of this team. Even when shit was bad and they were 1-4 and getting their ass whooped by the Cardinals and the Packers, like, man, you never heard drama. You never heard anybody coming out saying they won out. No one's finger pointing. It's like they almost knew, like, hey, that's not really us. Let's just keep working, and we'll end up at this point. And there's a true belief behind that, and that stems from McVay, man. I can't say enough about it. It's why I'm a huge fan of his. He's a leader of men, and you're super lucky in LA to have him. I hope that guy never goes anywhere. Sign him for a lifetime contract. Anyways, yeah, another huge takeaway from that game. Cardi going 4 for 4, obviously the only points in the game. Would have liked to see them punching in the end zone. Niners were just scrappy and playing desperate. That defense, like, played really, really well. Like, even if there was no rain in this game, this probably was going to be a low-scoring game no matter what. Yeah, in conditions like this where it's raining like crazy and ugly, and you haven't kicked perfectly this season, and stuff about does he practice enough, this and that, to go in there and drill 4 for 4 from different parts of the field, really impressive for a rookie. Kind of a coming home party, played at Stanford, so he's very used to the Bay Area. Maybe he just needs some more time in the offseason practicing in LA versus Stanford to get that same acclimation. But bravo to that whole unit, keeping him clean. The operation was tight. MVP of the game, man. 4 for 4. Congratulations, Cardi. Another takeaway is the defense. Again, they took their shots. The Niners did, going downfield. He ended up with 1 interception by Darius Williams, a bunch of pass breakups by the defense. Didn't really give them too much. Like, I don't really care what you got to say, but remember what Greg Jennings did? Well, not Greg Jennings, Juwan Jennings. Did put the team on his back, though. What Juwan Jennings did in week 3, week 4. In the first matchup, like 3 touchdowns, dude looked like an unstoppable force. Had a few catches in this game. He was targeted a bunch, but didn't really break the game like he did in that first matchup. This defensive line, the linebacker unit, is playing much, much better. They're getting better every week. I'm not really going to count the Bills game. I know they gave up 42, but Josh Allen is a complete alien. He's a freak. I think he's got 16 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. You can't do anything about it. Like, the guy is probably gonna be co-MVP with Lamar Jackson. And then with the Saquon Barkley thing earlier in the year, I mean, I was there for that game, and I gotta tell you, man, Saquon Barkley is the same as Josh Allen. Those guys are freaks. So those two outliers, his defense is performed worlds better this season as the season's gone on. My third takeaway from this game, I don't even know how many takeaways I got, just kind of yapping at this point, but the offensive line, again, this was the offensive line that we were kind of promised in the offseason, in the preseason. I know minus Jonah Jackson, that whole situation is still interesting. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking, trying to move people at center when they haven't, whatever. But Bo Limmer is a godsend. I'm not worried about the Jonah Jackson contract because even with that, you're barely paying Avila and Limmer. Kind of cut that up 3 ways. You're basically paying like $16 million for the 3 of those. Like, all right, you got some depth. Cool. Move on. No, the offensive line the past 4 or 5 weeks, it's just gotten better and better and better now that Avila's come back from injury. Having the same 5 guys for the most part, the way they're gelling, the communication's better. Stafford's going to be able to be comfortable with his timing. Kyron knows how his holes are going to open the run game. This is the offense we were promised months ago. I just really wish, like, although they're 8-6 and they're on the door of the playoffs here, I wish this had happened in week 4 or 5, where like maybe one guy goes down, got to bring Limmer in. Cool, week 3, week 4, let's start gelling earlier. Who knows where this team could be? This could be a 10-win team already. You dropped early games against the Bears, the winnable game against, honestly, Green Bay. As good as they're playing right now, that was a winnable game. If the offensive line was playing as consistent as they have been right now, and McVay's play calling is unlocked like he wants it to be from day one, this they could easily have 1 or 2 more wins on the season. Probably already have the West locked up. But hey, better late than never. I'm a big fan of starting slow and finishing hot, because there's a lot of truth to it. You finish hot, take that into the playoffs, and just keep rolling. You want to be a good team now versus who cares if you were good in week 2. Like, if you can win now and you make the playoffs, who cares about week 2? Yeah, those are my big takeaways, to be honest. Just a lot of glazing on Sean McVay, a lot of laughing at the Niners, and some looking ahead. Speaking of which, I'm excited. Are you excited for this? You know what we get to talk about? We get to talk about the NFC West race in a manner that matters for the Rams. Here we are again, back-to-back seasons where we're coming back from the dead, from the depths of hell in the NFC West, rising to the top, and potentially dissimilar from last year because the Niners won the NFC West. The Rams are in first place, and they are looking like they may run away with this. With the Seahawks losing on Sunday night against the Packers, Rams jump up to first place thanks to their head-to-head tiebreaker. They're both 8-6, Rams and Seahawks. Rams had that overtime thrilling win in Seattle earlier this season, so that gives them the edge. Who have we got next? They got to travel to New York to play the Jets in what's supposed to be like 30-degree weather. Really testing the toughness of not just the team, but McVay's play calling. You're going to have to rely heavily on Kyron it again. The fact he had 30 carries in this game, thank God he got 10 days of rest, but I really expect him to mix in Corum a little bit more, so that way you're not just going to wear down Kyron before the playoffs, to be honest. So they got the Jets this week, and then they close out the season. They got the Cardinals and Seattle both at home. Rumors are saying that the Cardinals game is being flexed into Sunday Night Football because that could be a playoff clincher, depending on how the Cardinals end up with their Week 16 game as well. That game could very much well determine the NFC West champion. The Cardinals right now are 7-7, so the top 3 teams are alive. Niners are technically still alive too. I actually did an article on this on a website breaking down each team's, like, what I see as the simplest path to the playoffs. We're going to kind of talk about it right now. So, for the Rams, win the next 3 games, no scenario matters. We're not playing like we did last year where we're hoping for a Commanders win or a Carolina win. Control your destiny. Like, block out the noise. Beat New York. Beat Arizona. And there's a chance week 18 doesn't even matter. Where it's like a bye week like it was last season. Because Seattle plays Minnesota this week. Minnesota is fighting for first place in the North as well. Seattle they may or may not have Geno Smith. They're trending downward. They've lost a bunch of games. So this is huge. If the Rams can win this week against the Jets, win at home against the Cardinals, and if Seattle loses this week to Minnesota, the Rams have officially won the West. Week 18 against Seattle, it becomes interesting. It's like, do you play the guys? Do you play for pride? Is there anything to gain from it? Just don't want to see injuries in Week 18 at that point. So, if the Rams do drop one of these two games, then depending on other team situations, Week 18 most likely is like win and you win the West. Becomes a very important game, and that potentially is an NFC West title game. The 49ers chances, right now they have about a 1% chance of making the playoffs. They can't win the West, but to make a wild card spot, they need a lot of shit. They're dependent on 15 games. At least this week, I think, or over the next 2 weeks. Sorry, I can't do math. 15 games over the course of the next 3 weeks. So for them to get in as a wild card, the Niners need to win the next 3 games. They need the Commanders to lose the next 3 games. They need Arizona to go 1-2, Seattle to go 0-3. The Rams can go 2-1, and Atlanta to go 1-2. At least in the scenario that I was able to drum up as easily as possible. I know there's like 10 different ways you can cut this, but it seems like Washington is the main catalyst for a lot of teams to get into the NFC wildcard. They hold a spot right now. If Washington wins one of the next 3 games, Niners are out regardless of any other outcomes. The Cardinals are 7-7. They have a lot of variables up in the air for them as well. So for them to win the West, looks like not only do they need to win the next 3 games, they need Washington to go 1-2. And they need the Rams to go 2-1, obviously losing to the Cardinals, but need the Rams to beat Seattle in Week 18. That scenario there scares me, losing the game to the Cardinals, because now the Rams are dependent on a lot of shit. They're dependent on beating Seattle Week 18. They're dependent on do the Cardinals close out their season against the Niners well. Does Washington win? There's a lot of bullshit that could happen. Where now there's 2 NFC West teams going in. I don't think that happens. I think Washington does win a game. So really, really crucial for the Rams to just win the next 3 games. The Seahawks, like I said, are second. They've got some bullshit going on because, like I said, Geno Smith, I have not seen an official report. It looks like Geno Smith suffered a knee injury. Didn't finish the game, but it is trending where he may play this week, and he needs to. If Seattle wins their final 3 games, same situation. They're the West champs because they're going to have, I think, one more divisional win over the Rams. Alternatively, if Seattle loses this week to Minnesota, now they're playing the same game as Arizona. They need the Rams to lose a game prior to the Week 18 matchup, and then a Seattle win over the Rams would give them the West. Like I said, I know there's 10 different ways you can cut this shit. I hear you. I get it. But those are like the most obvious ones I'm seeing based on the little playoff estimator guesser thing on ESPN. So yeah, that's what's on the horizon. It's really exciting. If you want to break it down a little bit more, link below on that article. The NFC West race is heating up. So looking ahead to this week, Rams, Jets. Everyone's calling this a trap game. I don't really understand why we're calling it a trap game. It's not like we're 12-2 and you're number 1 seed looking down. The Rams haven't clinched shit yet. Like, they're not even in the playoffs yet. They're not, like, looking at what they've done the last few weeks. I'm not gonna sit here and think that they're gonna just waltz into New York and think they're gonna walk away with the win. Like, no, they're gonna try to put belt to ass because they need to keep building momentum. And if you think, I know a lot of you hate McVay for some weird reason, like you keep calling him boy genius and this and that. I get it. No coach is perfect. But look where they are. Like, they're in first place. You got to trust them a little bit at some point. Like, the guy wants to win games. He's good at getting the guys ready to win games. Have a little bit of fucking faith. Like, what? I don't get the trap game. Like, just shut up. All right. They're going to run the ball a lot, I think, with the weather especially. And if I'm wrong, and if they don't, and Matthew Stafford throws 4 touchdowns, okay, I was wrong. And I love it. Because I'm a Matthew Stafford believer. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers is coming off probably his best game as a Jet, which is not fun because that actually knocked me out of the fantasy football playoffs. Yeah, I had to play against Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. Really fucking stupid. But anyways, yeah, those guys can be a problem. The offensive line for the Jets is not the greatest. So really hoping to see that pass rush from Verse and Fisk and boys come back alive. Like, they kind of slow down a little bit the last 2 weeks, mainly because just the game planning. I think they went more to a contain. It felt like they blitzed a little bit less. I gotta check the numbers again, but it felt like they blitzed a little bit less against Josh Allen, playing back, just trying to contain him a little bit, and still didn't work. But yeah, Jets offensive line is bad. You really hope for no injuries here, knock on wood, just because MetLife Stadium is a fucking nightmare place to play. But yeah, one step at a time. Really think the Rams do win the West. I think they win out. Hell, I think they win out even not needing Week 18. I think things just go in their favor. There's a lot of juju going around the league right now with injuries. The Rams are getting hot at the right time, and I have really good feelings about the next few weeks. We're going to do a little bit of film study coming out tomorrow. I also got a little article and video essay-ish, yeah, about why I think the Rams can win the Super Bowl. We're going to look back to our preseason article when I talked about each team on the West Coast and why they can win the Super Bowl. We're going to focus on the Rams first because we're in a prime position where a lot of this stuff can happen and can come true. But that's about all I got for you guys. I wanted to wrap up my thoughts on the Niner game. A little bit quick look ahead at the snapshot. And then I'll see you guys tomorrow with some more in-depth nonsense from a rambling Rams nerd. I'm your host, Tuna. Thank you for checking out the podcast. I'm happy to be back. I love you guys. Thank you for all the messages. Keep stacking, and I will see you next time.